Hello and welcome to this video, migrating OWASP chapter webpage to new OWASP website. This is a guide for OWASP chapter leaders. In January 2020, OWASP launched the new website. So the new OWASP website is based on GitHub Pages and Jekyll site generator. If you remember, the old OWASP website was based on MediaWiki, and it had quite an aged look of an old Wikipedia page. So the old OWASP website had many other issues. It was difficult to navigate, and one particular issue worth mentioning was the really poor support for smartphones and smaller screens. The old OWASP website has now been archived. It can still be accessed on wiki.owasp.org. The new OWASP website looks much better. It has a very clean and understandable structure, and it works great on your tablet and your phone too. On the new OWASP website, the top-level menu consists of three pillars of OWASP: projects, chapters, and events. And there is also an About menu, which has everything else. You will also find a search box here, as well as two important buttons: Donate and Join. Obviously, Donate button takes visitors to the donations page, and Join button takes us to the membership page, where you can join OWASP as a member or renew your existing membership. The new OWASP website has fully embraced the concept of open source. All content which is seen on owasp.org is stored in an open source OWASP organization repository at github.com/owasp, which is the home of all official OWASP content and tools. And while browsing the new OWASP website, you will notice that at the bottom of every single page, there is a link: Edit on GitHub. So let's, for example, look at the About OWASP page and scroll to the bottom of it. And here is Edit on GitHub button. And if we click on this link, we will end up on the actual source code for that web page inside OWASP GitHub repository. There you go. This is the actual source for the page, and if we click on the raw button here, we will see the actual raw markdown code behind this page. So all OWASP chapters are now required to migrate their pages to the new GitHub-based OWASP website. It needs to be done manually by chapter, and there is a handy migration instructions which could be found on https://owasp.org/migration. You will find that migration of your content can be as easy as copy-paste. However, some Markdown knowledge is required. So if Markdown language is not something you're familiar with, a handy GitHub guide called Mastering Markdown is a good tutorial to read. You will find the link in the description of this video. So let me walk you through the things you need to migrate your website. Before we even start, the first thing that you need to do is locate the GitHub repository for your chapter's webpage. All repositories will be under OWASP organizational account, which is github.com/owasp, and the repository naming convention is the following. For projects, it is www-project-name, for example, -zap, and for chapters, the repo naming convention is www-chapter-name. For example, for London chapter, the repo name is www-chapter-london. So inside GitHub, these repos will be under github.com/owasp. However, on the new OWASP website, they will be rendered under owasp.org. For example, London chapter's webpage URL will be owasp.org/www-chapter.london, and the source repository with content for that page will be in GitHub under github.com/owasp www-chapter London. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is to create a GitHub account if you don't have one. You can skip this step if you already have a GitHub account. To create a GitHub account, you can simply go to github.com, click on sign up button, and register with an email and password. If your chosen username is not available, GitHub will warn you and will suggest some alternative usernames. Now that you have your GitHub account ready, you need to submit a form called Request for Leaders GitHub Usernames. This form is required so that OWASP staff could invite you to manage and edit the repository for your chapter's webpage. Let's click on this link and open the form. As you can see, you just provide your name, the email address associated with your chapter. It most likely to be your owasp.org email address. Then you need to provide your GitHub username, and reminder that this is not your email address but the actual GitHub username that you just created. And the next thing you need is your GitHub experience here, which is optional. You can skip this. Now here's the important bit. Check all that apply. I am a chapter leader or I am a project leader. Okay, I am a chapter leader, and here a drop down appears. Select your chapter, and it advises me if not listed, choose other. Okay, so I'll look at this drop down with all the chapters. I can tap London, which is my chapter. There you go. I found it. In case if your chapter is new, for example, and was recently created, it's probably not going to be on this list. In such case, you just select other, and then you just type your chapter name here. Click submit and wait for the GitHub collaboration invitation to arrive in your mailbox for your OWASP chapter GitHub repository. Once you have the invitation, click on the accept invitation button. In case if you don't get an invitation within a few days, please check your spam folder first, and if still no invitation, please email OWASP's Director of Technology, Harold Blankenship, to chase your GitHub username request. You can also log into GitHub and look for the invitation in your GitHub notifications. And you can also just navigate to your repository URL, github.com/owasp www your chapter invitations. Please note that GitHub invitations automatically expire after 7 days, and if you missed one, you will need to email Harold Blankenship and ask for a fresh invitation. Now that you have access to your chapter's GitHub repository, let's review the Markdown files inside. You will see the following Markdown files inside your repository. Index.md. This will contain the main page with description of your chapter. Leaders.md contains the leaders' names and their email addresses. Info.md is at a glance information displayed in the right sidebar. It will contain things like your meetup group and also social media links. Tab_example.md contains an example of a tab for a tab structure. Please note that tabs are optional. However, index.md, leaders.md, and info.md are mandatory. And you will find that OWASP has probably already pre-populated the leaders.md file for you with your leaders' names and email addresses as listed on the OWASP legacy website. However, the other files will not be pre-populated. They will have some commented out template text. Okay, now let's quickly take a look at the OWASP London chapter webpage as an example of where and how the Markdown files inside the repository control the content on the webpage. As you can see, the page has tabs with content, and on the right-hand sidebar, we can see the content controlled by info.md and leaders.md, containing the names of the chapter leaders. Okay, if you look at the OWASP website migration page, you will see that there is an example of the files like index.md, leaders.md, info.md, and the tab structure at a fictitious project chapter page called project-chapter example. So if we open it and we take a look at it, in GitHub, we will see some example files. Please note that this particular project is kind of universal templated example for both projects and chapters, and some of the things here might be more applicable to projects than chapters. I'll explain to you what that is. So let's switch to the raw mode so I can show you what's actually happening inside index.md. Index.md contains this metadata, sometimes also called a front matter. Let's have a look at all the metadata inside that file. So layout, this is the layout used by both projects and chapter pages. You should leave it on call-sidebar because we're using Jekyll static website generator. This is important to make sure that the website that we build actually looks like this. Next field in this metadata is title, and that's the title of the OWASP project, OWASP chapter page. Usually it's just the name. For example, for us, it's OWASP London. Then tags. So tags is a space delimited list of tags that you want to associate with your project or chapter. If you are using a tabular structure, so at least one of these tags must be unique in order to link all the tabs together. I will explain this a little bit later when we start talking about tabs. Level is only relevant for projects, and this is a project level, for example, incubator, lab, or flagship. So for chapters, you don't need to include level at all. The next one is type. So this is, again, it's a type of a project. This is irrelevant for chapters. And again, if you were editing a project page, this would be a type of a project, for example, a tool project or a documentation project. Now, the important fields here is the meetup group. So the meetup group is the actual name of your group on Meetup. And OWASP provides free meetup groups for all OWASP chapters. So this bit here is actually the meetup group parameter here. It should be the exact part of the meetup URL after https://meetup.com. So for example, if the meetup URL is like listed here, OWASP Los Angeles, then if you were to go to meetup.com/OWASP Los Angeles, we would hit the actual group that we are after. There we go. This is OWASP Los Angeles in this example. Now, why this is important? This is important because OWASP will automatically scrub the events from the events page of the meetup using Meetup API to be published on the main owasp.org website, which is, of course, great, promotes your events essentially for free on the OWASP website. Okay, let me show you where the imported OWASP information events is shown. If you go to the OWASP website and click on events, you will see this upcoming chapter events menu item here. And when you click it, you will see all the upcoming OWASP chapter meetup events for the next 30 days. This consists of a summary. So these are just the titles of the events. And here are all the details of the actual meetups. How does that work? This clever bit works because the meetup group for each chapter is being scrubbed into the API, and there's a scheduled process every night which pulls the events from all OWASP chapters and displays all the meetup events here on this page, which is owasp.org/chapters/events. And all you have to do is just provide your meetup group URL, which is the bit after meetup.com. There's also country and postal code parameter in this metadata, and the best way to explain it probably is going to be using an example of OWASP London chapter. Let me just switch to my chapter here. So you can see here we have region as Europe. We also have a currency set up here. That's our meetup group, which is OWASP London. Here's the country, United Kingdom, and here's the postal code. Now, why these fields are required, I'll show you why. If we were to go to the owasp.org website and then click on chapters, you will see that find the local chapter page, there is a split by region. So if I were to click Europe, I will find OWASP London page here underneath Europe because it has Europe listed under its region. And the reason why you need to define the country and the postcode in the metadata is that on the new OWASP website, under the chapters page, there is a map, and your chapter will actually be shown on the map in accordance with your postal code and your country location. Here's a map of OWASP chapters, and there's OWASP London right there. Another reason why you need the postal code in this file is because it makes it easier for members when they join to actually find the nearest chapter. Again, if we go to the main OWASP website and we click on the join button, you will see that now if you are applying for a membership, if you look at the OWASP's membership page, you will see that OWASP is asking for your country of residence and your postal code, which means that after you become a member, OWASP can automatically suggest the nearest chapter to you. So again, just quickly, so we have layout, which should always be called sidebar. This is the title of the page. The tags, I will tell you about the tags a bit later. Level is only relevant for the project. Region should be a region. Meetup group should be your meetup group name after the meetup.com/, and the postal code is your postal code. Now let's have a look what your OWASP webpage might look like if you are just about to start your migration. Let's have a look at a chapter which has not yet been migrated. Here I have OWASP Nairobi, and this is the default chapter placeholder. And you can see there is some sample text here. There's a welcome, which includes some information here about your chapter. There's some information about OWASP, about chapter leader handbook, about the fact that any speakers should review the speaker agreement, and the fact that everyone's welcome and encouraged to participate in projects, chapters, events, online groups, and OWASP community Slack channel. So this is just a boilerplate text. You will also notice, again, I'm looking at the Nairobi chapter here because it has not yet been updated. The leaders have automatically been populated here already by OWASP. Let's have a look at what this page looks like on GitHub. And you can see there is one example tab here. It says this is an example, put what you like. If we switch back to main and we click on edit on GitHub, we will end up in the default index.md file. And let's switch into the raw mode so we could actually see the raw markdown. As we can see here in the metadata, in the front matter, we see just the minimum set of parameters, which is called sidebar, the name of the chapter, the example tag, and the region is set here to Africa. Now, if you look at the rest of the page, you will see that this is the example template. Okay, and you can see this is the bit in HTML, and this is the bit in Markdown. Okay, and you can see that this is just an example text, but here you will see some commented out bit. So you must remove this commented out text and actually replace it with your chapter page content. If we switch back to the OWASP website and you click on chapters, and let's say I'll click on Africa, okay, and you will see that, for example, OWASP Nairobi is not yet listed here. Why is that? Again, the reason for that is because it has not yet been updated inside that file. the best thing to actually build your own chapter markdown page, if you are not great in markdown, is to actually have a look at some other websites code. And again, this is very easy because you can look at any chapter and click on the edit on GitHub link to check out how others are building their page. And as OWASP advisor says here, cheat and steal their good ideas. So for example, let me show you OWASP London chapter. You can see here, this is how we structured our page. So as you can see, it's a bit of a mix of Markdown and HTML. Um, um, and another interesting piece of boilerplate here inside this Markdown file is this um, magic string, which will automatically include any upcoming meetup events into the chapters page, which is absolutely fantastic. If you have a look at the tags, you can see I set the tags to be London. And if we go and have a look at our tab, you will notice that OWASP London page has one tab. Let me open it here. You will notice that we have a tab here which is called past events. And see what we did, we just copy pasted past events from our legacy OWASP website. But how does it work inside GitHub? So inside GitHub, what we created this tab underscore past events.md file. And if we look at the actual source code of this file, you will see that the tags parameter here is set to London, and you can see the order is 2. And this is how you can achieve the tabbed structure. If you have a look at some other examples of OWASP websites, and I suggest you have a look, for example, at Mumbai chapter. Mumbai chapter has several tabs. As you can see, they have archive, leaders, and next meeting. So there's several tabs. And again, how they've done it, let's scroll down and click on edit on GitHub. This will take us straight to the GitHub repo. So let's go and take a look at what they have with their tags. So they just put mum as the tag. If we go back and have a look at other files inside Mumbai's repository, we will find the tab archive, tab leaders, and tab next meeting. So for example, let's have a look at the tab next meeting. And tab next meeting here will have the same tag called mum. So in order to make the task of editing index.md markdown file a little bit easier for you, do check out and maybe copy the way how other chapters have implemented this. You can see the chapters who have already updated that page under the OWASP chapters page. We'll show you some of the examples. For example, from Asia, an interesting chapter example to have a look at is OWASP Bangalore example. Yeah, you can see they placed their logo here, and they have tab structure here. Another interesting design is with OWASP Chennai. So OWASP Chennai. So these guys put their logo here under the main page, and they also had included several tabs here. So they put a tab for leaders, for past events, and for speaker invitations here. Another interesting example to have a look is OWASP Jakarta, because they added lots of tabs. So they have past events, meetup, training, chapter leadership, office address, and chapter sponsorship page. So that's another example. And if I were to show you an example of a chapter with more colorful graphics, that's OWASP Orange County. And you will notice with OWASP Orange County chapter, for example, they chose not to have any tabs at all. Now that we've covered index.md file, let's have a look at the other files. So leaders.md is an important file because it should contain the leaders' names and email addresses of the leaders of your chapter. So here's an example of the leaders file. There you go. There you've got the leaders header. Then you've got the name of the leader, say Jenny leader, and then you have the email address of the leader. So here's a markdown tip for you. Make sure there's no space between the closing square bracket and the opening round bracket here, because otherwise you will have a broken link. So make sure that there is no space here. And another tip, there is no colon slash slash and mail to. So when you're providing mail to list to the chapter leaders email addresses, you only have to specify the colon. There is no slash slash. Another very important thing to remember is that if you are manually adding leaders to your leaders.md file, you should also register your new chapter leaders using OWASP Jira, and that will be the same ticket that you use to register your chapter. Okay, now let's have a look at another file, info.md. So info.md file is your right-hand side area of the site. Let me show you what we have in OWASP London. See if you could probably use or reuse some of our ideas. So here we have a link to the membership. We have a link to our mailing list. We have a link to the donation page, speaker agreement, and a code of conduct. Then we have social links. So we have a link to our Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, meetup.com, Eventbrite, and YouTube channel. And these are the links to our repository, the repository of the slides, and the link to our legacy website on the wiki.owasp.org. So if I was to preview this markdown file, this is what it looks like. Now if we go and visit OWASP London page, and you will see the information from info.md is displayed here. There's our London information, social links, and code repository. You will also notice an interesting thing on OWASP London website, and here is an interesting tip for you. After the names of the leaders, we have a Twitter feed. There you go. These are all the tweets by our official OWASP London Twitter account. How was this done? Let me show you. This is actually embedded not into the index.md, but inside leaders.md. Again, the main reason why we've done it like that is that because we wanted the Twitter feed to appear after the names of the leaders. Okay, and let's go back to the to our repository so I can actually show you how it was done. And you can see there is a Twitter feed here. Let me switch to the raw mod, and here you will see the magical embed code, which allows us to embed our Twitter feed. And here's the magical code that we added here. This has a link to our Twitter account, and the script called widgets.js brings the embeddable widget into our web page. And when you see this code rendered on our web page, it looks very nice like this here. I hope this has been useful for you. We're almost at the end of this tutorial. One important thing to mention is that if you're not good with GitHub, there is a great generic GitHub tutorial called Hello World Guide. You will find it under guides.github.com/activities/hello.world. I would like to thank you for watching. Here's a reminder that there is a migration guide online under owasp.org/migration. And if you have any questions, please contact the OWASP chapter committee, and our email address is chapter-committee@owasp.org. Thank you, and hope to see your migrated OWASP webpage very soon.